The art of money making is as old as RuneScape itself. Since lately I've been exploring them, today I decided to go back to the grind, however I did it with a little bit of a twist. While most money makers I've done so far from the RuneScape 2/2007 scape era of the game, I pondered myself a question. What about RuneScape 3? Does it have many makers that perhaps might actually work on old school RuneScape? Well, that's what we are here to test. If you don't know, I'm almost maxed over at RuneScape 3 since I also play that game, and as such I actually decided to grab 4 money makers I have done over at that game and check out if they actually work in old school RuneScape or not. Obviously in some scenarios that is impossible, archaeology doesn't exist for example, so I decided to stick with things that exist in both games even if in different forms. For our first money maker, I want to go back to the first 99 I ever got in RuneScape 3, Fletching. These money makers started all the way back in free-to-play for me. Headless arrows. Headless arrows are one of the first things you can do fletching wise. They require level 1 fletching. They give very little XP, but since they were super profitable I decided to do them until 99, which netted me over 100 million GP profit. The method was decently AFK, and with every batch giving around 165 GP in profit plus 15 XP, it's easy to see why a person that just got members went for this, and today the profit is still around the same mark of 150-160 GP. But does it work in old school RuneScape? Well, I decided to grab 5000 feathers and 5000 arrow shafts to try it out. The best part about it is that you don't really need to bank since everything is actually a single stack, so it's actually pretty relaxing. The shafts ended up going for 1 GP each, so I spent 5000 GP on them. The feathers were 3, so I spent 15,000 GP on them. I sold the headless arrows for 60,000 GP, meaning I ended up with a profit of 40,000 GP, and also I got 5,000 fletching XP, all in less than 10 minutes. However, there is a little problem with this. The limit for feathers is 30,000, which is decent enough, but for the shafts is only 7,000, meaning unless you have them stacked up, this is not a money maker you can always do. In RuneScape 3 the limits for both of these items is 100,000, which allows you to do the money maker way more often, or at least never need to stop because of GA limits, so it's far more viable than in old school RuneScape. All things considered, however, while you can make some nice fast GP I guess, the G limit really kills this method, so while it is profitable, I would say it doesn't really work. Next up we have one of my favorite less well-known money makers, crafting clockwork. This is pretty niche in terms of the item, as it's required for a few quests and a few things around the game, so it's not really needed by most people, and as a result you don't actually see a lot of people making them, which actually gave me the opportunity to make some nice GP. When it comes to niche RuneScape 3 money makers, this is still one of the best out there due to the fact that, again, clockworks have become, slowly rarer over time, which right now they are clocking in at 11,000 GP each. All you need to make them is a steel bar, so the profit on this is close to 9,000 GP on each and every one that you make. Giving 15 XP isn't much, but in terms of GP, the potential is there, and it is a very nice money maker. In RuneScape 3. What about old school RuneScape? So I decided to buy 100 steel bars and I went to town. The method is on that annoying zone of not being AFK, but also it's not active enough to be engaging, so you sort of have to hold down your keyboard dialogue option, which in this case was 3 for me, and just click every time that you finish making a clockwork, because you do need to make this at the workbench at your player own house. At least you can easily teleport back and forth between the bank and POH with my crafting cape and house teleports. Those bars ended up costing me 47,000 GP, and the clockwork sold for 117,600 GP. which left me with a total profit of 17,600 GP, plus I got a nice 1,500 crafting XP. Personally, I say this is only somewhat worth it. We are talking about a somewhat niche item and the method itself is kind of annoying. In RuneScape 3 I can 100% excuse the annoyance because of the sheer amount of profit that you get, but here I think it's, it will heavily depend on the price. At the prices I did it, however, I would say, yeah, it's still worth it. For our third method, we're sticking with the theme of skilling, but this time we're going to be focused on herbal ore. Secondaries in RuneScape 3 have always been worth quite a bit when specially processing them, and one that has always had my interest was grinding stuff, especially in this case desert goat horns. The horns are fairly cheap and the dust sells for multiple times its price. I always love these types of money makers because while the price will come down as you do them, you can do so many of them and you can always get a decent amount of GP fairly quickly. For these, it's even better in RuneScape 3 since you actually have the telekinetic grind spell which grinds everything in your inventory, making this method not just faster but also way easier. However, how does that translate to Old School Runescape? Well, I decided to get 500 desert goat horns. My cash stack actually went down 35,000 GP, which is how much they cost. Unfortunately, this is one of those methods that the faster you click, the faster you get things done, and the FK option is somewhat slow. Thankfully, I wasn't doing a lot of them, but I can see it being an issue in the long term because, yeah, look, 500 was already super annoying for me to do, it's so much clicking. After grinding everything, I came away with 52,500 GP, which ended up turning into 17,500 GP profit. Unfortunately, I didn't get any herb XP, contrary to RuneScape 3 where you actually do get 1 herb lore XP for grinding each horn. Honestly, while it is profitable, it's not worth it whatsoever. The amount of clicking is super repetitive and it's the type that gets annoying really fucking fast and it just strains your arms. I guess you can like AFK it, but again, the amount of GP just really is not worth the effort in my opinion. Lastly, but not least, we have turning bones into bananas, which I feel requires a little bit of a backstory. So in RuneScape 3, the rune shops restock only once and they do it daily. So one of the daily things you can do is a rune shop run, where you go to all of the rune shops around the game, buy out all of the runes and then sell them in the GE for profit, as in the shops they are way cheaper. Well, one of these rune shops is in Apatol, and the fastest way to get there is by using the teleport spell in the normal spellbook. That spell, however, requires a banana, so in order for me to prepare for these daily runs, I bought a bunch of them and then realized, oh wait, they're actually kind of expensive for being bananas. So I inevitably looked into the best way to get my hands on them, and bones to bananas was the easiest way and honestly the fastest way as well. Given the price of bones, I pretty much stumbled upon a decent money maker. While I mostly do this nowadays to, restock on my bananas for teleports, it is still a very good money maker and one that I feel really doesn't, get that much talked about. However, well, again, does it work in Old School RuneScape? So I decided to grab 1,000 bones, which, are just the cheapest. You can do this with any bone, but the regular bones are the cheapest. I also got myself a med battle staff, so I didn't need earth or water runes, and I just got to work. I bought the bones for 28,888 GP, and the runes for 3,760 GP, because you do need nature runes. The bananas were worth a total of 49,000 GP, leaving me with a profit of 16,252 GP. I also got 950 magic XP, which is not much, but per hour I guess it's a nice rate. While it doesn't look like a lot, it is worth noting that I did all of this in 2 minutes, so it was pretty fast profit. It is kind of annoying given the intensity because you do have to click a lot even if it's not the same thing, it's not super repetitive. I honestly prefer the RuneScape 3 version way more, where you just cast the spell with the toolbar, so you can actually cast the spell with your keyboard, so it's actually less clicking, but it still wasn't too bad. However, one of the main issues I did not talk about this was again the G limits. This is one of those that you can only, do every once in a while, or if you have like a crazy stockpile of things. And honestly, given the amount of negligible profit that you can make in this version of the game, I would say Bones to Bananas is really not worth it to do in Old School Runescape. In Runescape 3, as a once in a while thing, amazing. In Old School Runescape, not really worth it. And those are the 4 methods I use or have used in the past in Runescape 3 to make money. All of them are not only viable, but actually some of them are pretty nice money makers in Runescape 3. When it comes to Old School Runescape, it was honestly surprising to find that some of these still held, although they are nowhere near as good in Runescape 3. Yeah, that's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you in the next one.